Switching topics here. While infertility can feel taboo if you are going through it, it's more common than most people realize. In fact, 1 in 6 couples experience infertility nationwide. So June is National Infertility Awareness Month, and joining us now to share her own story, which, by the way, this is so true because literally I have a handful of friends who are experiencing infertility as we speak. So I'm so glad you're here to talk about this. So we're joined by Meghan Archibald, board member with Friends of Prentice, and Dr. Goldman, reproductive endocrinologist at Northwestern Memorial Hospital and Friends of Prentice grant recipient. Meghan, so let's talk about this first. Your story, your personal story, and why this is important to you.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm honored to be here today to talk about my personal story and my connection to Friends of Prentice and how they're helping so many doctors, researchers in my position. So my husband and so many couples who struggle with infertility, we just didn't realize how long our journey would be and how much assistance was needed. So after 5 years of failed IUI, IVF procedures, we were told ultimately that our greatest chances of having a biological family would be through surrogacy. And so we were very lucky through our doctors, lawyers, and a agency. We were matched with not 1 but 2 amazing surrogates that carried Amanda, who carried our now 6-year-old twins, William and Rory.
Oh my goodness.
Yes, she lives in Milwaukee, and Bridget, who lives in Denver, Colorado, who carried and delivered our baby Quinn, who just turned 1 last week.
We literally have baby twins. I have a 6-year-old and a 1-year-old.
Oh, there you go.
So funny.
There you go.
Another question to follow up, because you said match. So what is that like? So do you have to go through testing?
Yes. So it's quite a long process that Dr. Goldman could probably go through more scientifically.
Yeah.
But yes, so the intended parents go through basically IVF procedures with genetic testing and all of that. And then we partnered with an agency who specializes in surrogacy, and they matched us with a surrogate, Amanda first, and then she had carried, actually she has 3 children of her own. She had carried 2 children for another family.
Beautiful.
So our twins, she was kind of at the max number of deliveries.
Okay.
So then we were blessed to be matched a second time with Bridget for our most recent baby.
So I guess this is the IVF. You have the embryos ready to go, and then you find your surrogate.
Yes.
So let's talk about the advancements, by the way, in this reproductive health. What's going on in the industry right now?
Absolutely. First, thank you so much for having us on.
Of course.
Meghan, thank you for sharing your incredibly beautiful story.
We don't talk about it enough,
We do not talk about it enough, no. And first of all, you know, infertility is incredibly painful, incredibly difficult, and thankfully we have incredible tools to help patients to achieve their family building goals. But without the science to move these advancements forward, we are going to stagnate. And so, you know, I think before talking about any particular advance, I think we have to talk about scientific innovation and what drives scientific innovation, and that's funding. That's funding for research.
Okay.
And right now we are experiencing major cuts in women's health research, which is already underfunded. So relative to other fields, it is desperately underfunded. And right now, the NIH is facing slashes across the board with women's health research. And so this is where Friends of Prentice and this incredible organization comes in. They are generously funding the research of researchers like myself. I have been able to continue my research seamlessly for the last 5 years because of their funding. And so they are, you know, incredibly generous and really drive innovation in the field. And, you know, in terms of one particular advance that I am excited about, I think about, you know, the biology of the ovary is really underfunded and understudied. And the ovary to a woman's health throughout her lifespan. So it's the key to, you know, health even after the fertile years. And so it's an endocrine organ. It produces hormones that are important. And the loss of egg cells ultimately results in menopause. And with menopause, we see impacts to the bone, the brain, the heart. And so understanding the drivers of how the ovary ages is really how we're going to understand how to improve health throughout a woman's lifespan. And so I study the drivers of that aging.
That's beautiful. Literally literally yesterday we were talking about postpartum anxiety and depression and how it's not spoken about enough either. So I'm sure that's part of your research about our hormones. They
Absolutely.
They push everything.
Absolutely.
So let's talk about Friends of Prentice. So you mentioned how they're funding this. So what is Friends of Prentice? What is it?
Yeah, so Friends of Prentice is a nonprofit board that funds doctors like Dr. Goldman and fellow researchers at Prentice Hospital. So it's my personal connection through my infertility journey is what led me to Friends of Prentice. And it is more important than ever, as Dr. Goldman highlighted, that the need to fund this critical research. And that's what Friends of Prentice so successfully does.
Beautiful.
And it's just an amazing organization.
They have funded $25 million worth of research thus far, and that number continues to grow. And I think now is such a moment for people to understand that not funded through this mechanism, many researchers will have to stop pursuing the work that is innovating to bring families like Meghan's here.
Yeah.
You mentioned how painful it is, and I've had friends who are going through it right now, and I've heard it firsthand. If people are looking for information, or they want to reach out, or maybe they want to go this route to have babies, where should they go for more? Like online?
So they can go to the Friends of Prentice website.
Okay.
And there are ways to give money or to reach out, and board members such as myself who have been through similar situations are happy to talk to anyone. And, we really just hope that sharing stories like ours can give hope to other people who are struggling out there.
All right. Thank you. Thanks for coming in this morning, ladies.
Thank you so much.
We'll be right back.